Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, I've been dying to get to this story. It's been about a week now that I've been dying to get this story, but there is just so much news that just keeps breaking over and over and over. So Sandy and I are almost laughing about this before today's show. We're like, finally, we get to do the Epstein story. So, okay, my friends, as you know, recently, it seems almost like an eternity ago with all the news that's been taking place, but over 3 million, literally 3 million documents, photos, videos were released. It was a massive document dump by the Department of Justice, particularly Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General, Pam Bondi, have released 3 million of the Epstein files. And Blanche held a major press conference explaining what he thought were some of the most relevant parts. Now, what is shocking, well, I guess I shouldn't say shocking, but what is to me unbelievable, okay, I think that's the more accurate word. What is to me absolutely unbelievable is what they have actually released in the files. And furthermore, that the media in this country, and in particular, the Democrat propaganda media, the fake news media, is deliberately refusing to cover or let their listeners or viewers know what's contained in this massive new document dump. And one of the most remarkable things that is taking place as I speak to you, I mean, practically literally as I speak to you, is that this latest document dump is on the verge of bringing down governments in Europe. In Europe, this is a front page, wall-to-wall, 24/7 saturation coverage in the media. Print media, obviously, but cable TV, nightly news. This has rattled and rocked the British government, the British royal family. It has rocked the political class in Norway and other Scandinavian countries. I mean, this is the European Union. Ministers are resigning. Cabinet members are falling. This is now affecting royalty, houses of royalty. Monarchs are being affected by this. Princesses are being affected by this. This is huge. In fact, Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of Britain, may fall, literally may lose power. His government may collapse in the wake now of this latest massive Epstein document dump. Yet here in the United States, yawn. Nothing to see here. Let's just move on. Nothing to see here. Why? Why the tale of two cities? Why is this rocking and threatening and shaking the very foundations of power and politics in Europe, but here, nothing? In fact, the media continues with its obsession. I think we're on day 9 now and I feel extremely sorry for this woman. Please don't misunderstand what I'm saying. Both for Savannah Guthrie, the daughter, and the mother, Nancy Guthrie, who is missing, appeared to be abducted or whatever happened to her. But it is here. It is drowning out everything, because the media is just obsessed with this story. What's happening here is that the media is deliberately not telling you what's in the Epstein files because there's nothing there to go after Trump. They never cared about Epstein. They never cared about the victims of Epstein. They never cared about an international pedophile ring run by global elites. Many of them, by the way, Democrats, and I'm going to get to this in a second. The media never cared. In fact, as Sandy mentioned to me just before we came on the air, She said, Jeff, please keep reminding the audience over and over again. Joe Biden and Merrick Garland, 4 years, sat on the Epstein files. The Democrats had it all. They could see the unredacted version in a skiff. Their Justice Department had all of this information. They had every document, every email, every photograph, every video, and yet they did nothing. They sat and sat and sat and sat. So the only way and the only time the media actually cared is if they thought, get Trump. They can get Trump. Get the evil orange man. Now, in the latest dump, there's nothing at all that can get them close to their dream of tying Trump to young underage girls being either assaulted or raped or molested or violated on Epstein's notorious island. So if they can't nail Trump and try to put him behind bars, then they don't care. But it's more than that they just don't care. It's that if you look at the files themselves, this is a massive scandal for the Democrats. This is a who's who of the Democratic Party. And that's another reason why the lying, propaganda, corrupt media will not touch this story with a 10-foot pole. So, what have we now learned in this 3 million document dump? Well, here's what we've learned. That some of the leading donors, some of the most powerful people and personalities within the Democratic Party or funders of the Democratic Party or in Hollywood, which overwhelmingly backs the Democrats, were up to their eyeballs with Jeffrey Epstein and the disgusting criminal things that he was doing on that island. Unspeakable things. Reid Hoffman, a prominent Democrat billionaire donor. He is the sugar daddy of Hillary Clinton and the Clintons. Apparently flew to Epstein Island multiple times. Hung out with Epstein even after he was a convicted sex predator and convicted pedophile. Remember, he pled guilty. Epstein pled guilty to soliciting sex with an underage minor prostitute. Hoffman, even afterwards, hung out with Epstein again and again. Not only did he party with Epstein on Epstein Island, he actually bought gifts for Epstein and for quote unquote, the girls. Literally, the girls. Hoffman, big donor to the media, big donor to Hillary, big donor to the Democrats. The media they don't want to name him. They don't want any investigations. Bill Gates, one of the biggest Democrat donors on the planet, one of the arch globalists. Remember, he was the one that used COVID and the jab to push his depopulation agenda. Mr. Vaccine, Mr. COVID, Mr. Lockdown. Not only was he a frequent visitor to Epstein Island, not only was he buddy-buddy with Epstein. In fact, it appears from these documents now that Epstein really had his tentacles into Bill Gates. I mean, he was giving him advice. Money was exchanging back and forth. It appears he was almost practically blackmailing Gates. Well, it turns out Bill Gates, according to the Epstein files, got STDs from having intercourse with young underage Russian girls. And that he was asking Epstein for help in trying to get medication or whatever, drugs, to help take care of his STDs that he contracted from sex with young Russian girls. And to add insult to injury, Bill Gates' own wife, Melissa Gates, has now come out and said, I'm happy this has come out about my ex-husband because that's one of the things I found most disgusting about him was his behavior and his association and long association with Epstein. So we're now looking at Bill Gates, top Democrat, Reid Hoffman, top Democrat. Then the dam has now broken. Larry Summers, former president of Harvard. He's in the Epstein files. He's in big trouble. Top Democrat. Woody Allen, the guy who married his own adopted daughter. Okay, and apparently, according to Mia Farrow, was molesting her when she was underage. He's now in the Epstein files. Noam Chomsky, and I don't mean just named in the Epstein files. He partied with Jeffrey Epstein. He went to Epstein Island. Noam Chomsky, the guru of the radical left, the prophet of the radical left, that intellectual fraud. Well, now it turns out he was practically in bed with Jeffrey Epstein, a regular visitor with Epstein, a good friend of Epstein, close ties to Epstein. And then there's one more. And this one, though, is MAGA. Okay, I'm going to get to Ghislaine Maxwell very soon, I promise. She's serving a, 20-year sentence. She was basically, she was Jeffrey Epstein's pimp, madam, however you want to phrase it. And she pled the fifth the entire time. She was testifying in front of the House Oversight Committee yesterday, and it was truly chilling. This woman has no conscience. This woman has no sense of morality. I believe she's a sociopath. I think it's obvious. And when asked basic questions under oath, all this woman did was plead the fifth. And I'm going to get to this, I promise. Now, Bill Clinton as well. He's in big trouble. Both he and Hillary Clinton now are going to have to testify in public. There will be public hearings, the 26th of February, the 27th of February. There's pictures now of Bill Clinton in a hot tub on Epstein Island. He's in big trouble with Ghislaine Maxwell. They're in a hot tub, and there's pictures of him with, let's put it this way, very young women. Now, this is a man who's claimed he's never been to Epstein Island. So I don't know how he's going to lie his way out of this, but we shall see. So, as I said, this is a scandal that is blowing up now in the Democrats' face. It is taking down one major Democrat after another. A lot of it on the financial money side. In other words, people, as I said, like Reid Hoffman, Bill Gates, others who are massive donors. These are multi-billionaires who are been funding the Democrat Party, their NGOs, their activism, their campaigns for years. However, Bill Clinton is named, others are named, and there's going to be more to come. This is, again, we're just scratching the surface. However, there is, by the way, they can't touch Trump. Not only can they not touch Trump, what is overwhelmingly clear in the Epstein files is how much Jeffrey Epstein loathed and hated Trump. In email after email after email, whether it's to Ghislaine Maxwell herself or to his friends and buddies, Epstein cannot hide how much he loathes and despises Trump. So this media narrative that somehow they were buddies and they were close and they partied and he was, Trump was a regular on Epstein Island, as now they're claiming at the Grammys, like Trevor Noah, he's a pedophile. He's a pedophile. He slept with kids. You're going to get sued because that's slander and defamation. It's a lie. It's a clear lie, and you see that in the Epstein files. Okay? Now, there is one major MAGA individual who I think now has, at a bare minimum, a lot of explaining to do. And to be fair, it's really Elon Musk who is driving unmasking him. Elon is going to town on Steve Bannon. On X, on social media, but I mean, he's coming up with the receipts. So, Steve Bannon, as you know, in some ways the architect of Trump's victory in 2016, has this show, whatever it's called, The War Room, considered a MAGA influencer, Well, he's in the Epstein files. And I don't mean he's mentioned in an email or mentioned in a call or whatever, rubbed elbows with Epstein or rubbed shoulders with him at a party. No. They had a long-standing friendship. This friendship got even deeper and closer after Epstein was convicted. This friendship continued right up until the day and even after Epstein was arrested a second time. It is very clear that Steve Bannon was extremely close with Jeffrey Epstein. Epstein gave Bannon money. Bannon did favors for Epstein. Bannon traveled to Epstein Island again and again and again. And what's even more disgusting, and the emails are there, there's no getting around it. It breaks my heart to say this, but I have to say it, is when the media began to really start to look into Epstein. This was now a year, 6 months before he gets arrested, the second time. Okay? We're talking now 2018, 2019. It is Bannon who says we have to come up with a media strategy to counter this for Jeffrey. That Epstein to him is such a close friend that they have to come up with a media PR strategy to refute the charges against Epstein, to launder Epstein, to distract and deflect the media, to do everything in their power to try to cover up for Jeffrey Epstein. And so he tries to put together a media public relations strategy to basically rescue and save Epstein. Now, look, I don't know if this is one of the reasons why Trump has been very reluctant to release these files, because some of his top allies may go down, and maybe it's Steve Bannon that he's trying to protect here. But let's put it this way. Bannon is up to his eyeballs with Epstein. Okay, let me just throw some names. I want to go to the phones. We will very soon, I promise. 617-266-6868. Couple lines are open if you want to jump on. Bill Gates, Reid Hoffman, Woody Allen, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, who aided and abetted all this, which is to me absolutely unbelievable. Larry Summers, former president of Harvard. Now we've got Prince Andrew and some of the pictures of him. I don't know if you've seen the infamous one now of him, on his knees over a young woman lying on the ground. I don't know if she's underage or not, but she looks extremely young. And he has this evil, almost satanic look on his face. And by the way, he's in big trouble. Apparently, it's come out through these Epstein files, the latest document dump, that he was passing trade secrets, British trade secrets, to Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, that's treason. So Prince Andrew may end up going to prison. He's in big trouble. You've got Peter Mandelson, who was Britain's ambassador to the United States, a very close ally, top aide to Keir Starmer. His reputation is in tatters. He's in very serious trouble. He's probably going to go to jail. Starmer now is politically in deep, deep trouble, knowing about Mandelson, knowing that Mandelson had very deep ties with Epstein, and he still promoted him within his own government. This is rocking the British government to its very foundations. So these are all massive Democrat names. And, Noam Chomsky is kind of faded the last couple of years. But for my entire life, you ask Mamdani, you ask AOC, you ask the Democratic Socialists of America, you ask Bernie Sanders, you ask Hillary and Bill Clinton, who their ideological guru was. It's Saul Alinsky and it's Noam Chomsky. They practically studied at the feet of Noam Chomsky. He was a hero, a darling of the left for 50 years. Mr. Socialist, Mr. Radical Leftist, Mr. Man of the People, Mr. Soak the Rich, Destroy Capitalism, Bring Down the Billionaires. He was partying with Epstein. He was hanging out with Epstein. He was on Epstein Island. You can't. The hypocrisy of this is unbelievable. Never mind the sick perversion of the whole thing. So the intellectual icon of the left in America for the last 50 years, the last half century, who said, eat the rich, overthrow the 1%, was partying and hanging out and had Epstein doing favors for him and his wife and his family. And God knows what other services, sexual services, were provided to that pervert, Chomsky. I mean, this should be wiping the Democratic Party off the face of the map. Now, I mentioned Bannon, which, to be fair, he's named, and it's bad. I mean, what else to say? So clearly, it affects. It's not just limited to one party. It's not. But overwhelmingly, this is a Democrat scandal. Let's not kid each other. And I think another reason why the media is not giving this any attention, while in Europe it is toppling governments and leading to massive resignations, it's not just that this is a primarily Democrat scandal and it will rock the financial power of the Democratic Party, but because many of the media themselves are in the Epstein files. George Stephanopoulos. You have others, CBS News. It's unbelievable now how many members of CBS News partied with Epstein. ABC News partied with Epstein. CNN partied with Epstein. And this was after he was convicted, after he was a known sexual predator and child and pedophile. So the problem is now, if they cover the Epstein files, they're destroying themselves. I mean, you can't make this up. There's apparently some kind of a journalist superstar at CBS. They're desperately trying to save his career. He's all over the Epstein files. And what was he there? 12 times, 15 times on Epstein Island? And Barry Weiss, the new person brought in to try to turn around CBS News, desperately doesn't want to fire him. So a major reason why the media doesn't want to touch this with a 10-foot pole is because they're as perverted and as dirty and as corrupt and as implicated in the Epstein files and being connected to Epstein and his crimes as Bill Gates, as Reid Hoffman, as Bill Clinton, as Noam Chomsky, as Larry Summers, as Prince Andrew. And so that's why you cover this story, you cover yourself, you're done. You're cutting your own throat. And I want all of you to just think about this, okay? Last point. How morally bankrupt, how corrupt is our media? Not only that they will not cover and expose this massive story of an international pedophile ring and the involvement of some of the most powerful, influential people in the United States, most of whom happen to be Democrats, but that they themselves were part of this perversion and partook of all of this, and now are trying to deliberately turn a blind eye. I mean, this is our political media class. And they're dirty. They're into kids. They're into pedophilia. And they are corrupt to the bone. Agree, disagree. Andy in Milford. You're going to kick us off, Andy. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Andy.
Hello. Hey, for starters, you mentioned Keir Starmer.
Yes.
One important thing to note about Keir Starmer, and this has been covered extensively on InfoWars, earlier on in Keir Starmer's career, when he was in the Ministry of Justice over in the United Kingdom, he was notorious for covering up for pedophilia that was going on in the whole elite class in the UK. Members of the royal family, various British politicians. That went on for decades before Keir Starmer got to the point in his career when he became prime minister. So that's an important fact about him that came to mind as you were opening up the show this morning. And also, the other thing is, when you look at both Kash Patel and Jan Bongino, Jeff, it's very clear that somebody in the Justice Department who's extremely dirty and has a lot of power to hurt people got to both those men. And we've covered that extensively in Kuhner country, that both those men, when it came to the question of releasing these files, they were like deers caught in the headlights. They were genuinely in fear. I think one thing President Trump has to do, Jeff, is he basically needs to have a midnight massacre over at Justice.
Andy, can you do me a favor? Because this is you make great points, but the final point is so important, and I want you to flesh it out a bit. Okay, let's go right back to Andy in Milford. Andy, you were making the point that both Kash Patel, he's still director of FBI, and the former number 2 deputy FBI director, he's now gone, Dan Bongino, clearly turned a blind eye to everything that Epstein did, to the crimes of Epstein, to the victims of Epstein. And it was clear that they were ordered by someone at the Justice Department to not prosecute, not investigate, to basically look the other way. And you saying that before we left, you said that Trump needs to do sort of a Saturday night massacre, or what you called it, a midnight massacre, of just firing some of the top people at the Justice Department because you believe they are clearly morally compromised. Andy, please pick up where you left off.
Okay, Jeff. It was when Dan Bongino was picked and was confirmed as deputy director of the FBI. I mean, it was very clear that his intentions going in there was to get to the bottom of this thing and to let the chips fall where they may. Kash Patel, same thing. Pam Bondi, given her history as Attorney General for Florida, I'm assuming same thing. The question, Jeff, is why? Why? Why would they just do a 180 and deny the obvious? And it's obvious to me the answer is we've still got bad deep state actors in the Justice Department that clearly have a lot of power to hurt people, to go after people's families. I don't know if it goes as far as them having connections to get people murdered, but we need to know. We need to know who got the Bongino, and maybe even Bondi herself, and basically threatened them to essentially cover this whole thing up, because that's clearly what we've been through with this, is a cover-up. And I therefore believe that whoever these bad actors are, President Trump just needs to do a midnight massacre and fire all of them. And replace them with people that are going to get to the truth on all of this.
I agree. Andy, I completely agree. And look, I'll tell you, there's many things about Bongino that I don't like. But let me tell you, the one that really sticks in my craw is when he was adamant he did interview after interview after interview saying, no, it was a suicide. No, Epstein committed suicide in that cell. And I'm like, what? And he's like, I know, I've seen the evidence. I've seen it. I'm like, well, if you've seen the evidence, then why don't you release it to the American people? Because it's pretty obvious that it was either the CIA, it was either Mossad, it was MI6, whatever. It was some intelligence operation that took out Jeffrey Epstein. Because now it's come out, and this is now undeniable, that about a week before he allegedly committed suicide, and by the way, all of his friends say that he gave no hint that he was suicidal. His cellmate, the one that they removed at, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, okay, because you're supposed to have 2 people in every cell to prevent suicides. The one they removed at 5 in the afternoon, so he would be alone that night, said he never hinted of suicide. His own brother, his own family, his own lawyer said, I'm telling you, I never gave a hint that this guy wanted to commit suicide. In fact, it was the opposite. 1 week before he allegedly committed suicide, he said, I'm ready to cooperate. You want names? I'll give you all the names you want. You want crimes? I'll lay them all out for you. So he was going to sing like a canary. And I think that's what they were really afraid of. And now he's dead. You know, as they say, dead men don't talk. So clearly tremendous pressure was exerted and they cracked. Now, fine, you're going to crack. But, you know, there's an Eastern European expression that I like a lot. Don't pee on my back and call it rain. Don't stand there and tell me that this guy committed suicide when all the evidence points in the exact opposite direction. And don't tell me you've seen the conclusive evidence and then say, you got to trust me, you got to trust me. No, I don't trust you and I don't trust anybody. If you have that kind of evidence, you owe it to the public to release it. They didn't, they won't, because it's not there. And, you know, but anyway, it doesn't matter. He's going to make a fortune. He's already back on his show. And they're all, by the way, they're all like, thank you for your service, Dan. You know, all of his, you know, his groupies. And I'm like, thank you for your service. What did you do? Like, what did you do? What worked 9 to... He was complaining. If you want, I can play you the clips. He was complaining that his job had him staying at the office till 6 o'clock. He's the deputy FBI director, for God's sake. The FBI is all over the Nancy Guthrie, for example, kidnapping. I mean, that's what the FBI does. You know how many cases they have on their plate? It's a 24/7, you know, 7 days a week job. You're burning the midnight oil. He said, no, it's coming between me and my wife. My wife wants me home at 6 o'clock. It's causing a strain in our relationship. And I'm like, so then why'd you take the job? Like, what, you honestly thought that you were going to hold bankers' hours? You honestly thought this was what, a 9 to 6 gig? You phony, you fraud, you. So anyway, I don't care. It's his business. It's his life. All I'm telling you is you're right. There's obviously now they want to protect certain people at all costs. And I'm sorry, but from what I've seen in the Epstein files, there's more than enough there to start investigations and to start issuing indictments. But they're not interested. You know, again, back to Elon. I want to give Elon full credit on this. Elon came out and said, have you noticed? Forget what's being said. Look at what's being done. How many powerful people who committed unspeakable crimes against underage girls and boys, okay, children, how many of them have gone to jail? How many of these powerful men have gone to jail? Epstein is dead. Ghislaine Maxwell is, you know, his pimp, his madam, whatever you want to call her. She's in jail over sex trafficking. But outside of that, all those men in $2,000 suits that were diddling and molesting and raping kids and partying it up on Epstein Island, no one's even been charged. Never mind going to jail. So they're not accountable. So what are they? They're all above the law now? Is that how it works? Well, not in my America. We're a republic. We're not a monarchy. We're not an aristocracy. We're not an oligarchy. I don't want to believe that. I refuse to accept that. And to me, you commit a crime, you go to jail. I don't care how rich or how powerful you are. Andy, I've got to ask you the $64,000 question. Do you think, and I've named all these names, do you think any of them are going to pay a price and be indicted and go to jail? Will any of them be convicted for any kind of crimes related to their involvement with Epstein? Will anybody be put behind bars? What say you?
I say, as long as we, the people, keep up the pressure, yes. Because the only reason, Jeff, that we had this big dump is from the unrelenting pressure of we commoners, so to speak. I mean, eventually they yielded to that pressure and just released everything. And I mean, and there's many entities that have been responsible for maintaining that pressure. And I'm going to say a lot of the investigative reporting on InfoWars was instrumental in just bringing pressure. I mean, it just got so hot they had to release it. So if we all keep the heat on, yes, I think eventually we're going to see arrests and prosecutions, and particularly, I'm going to speak directly to you, Mr. President. If you have that midnight massacre that you need to have and get rid of all these bad actors in the Justice Department, there will finally be justice on this.
Amen. Amen. Andy, from your lips to God's ears. As always, superb call. Andy, thank you very much for that call. This is from Dave, our Western PA constitutionalist correspondent, and he makes a very, very good point. He said, Jeff, what is very clear from the Epstein files and the latest massive document dump, it's that Democrats are the pedophiles. And you're right, Jeff. The media are covering their literal asses on this one. Well, yeah, because so many of them are implicated and involved. They knew him. They partied with him. They, look, at a bare minimum, they turned a blind eye. At a bare minimum. But many of them participated. That's the problem. So they have a conflict of interest. They're basically having to, if they go after Epstein and the Epstein files hard, they're going to basically put themselves in jail. Steve in Houston. Thanks for holding, Steve, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Steve.
All right, I got a few things to say. One, I'm 100% for Trump. I've always have been. He's definitely better than any other choice we've had. But there's a few things that really got me looking at him in a different light. You know, when he had that press conference, and there was a bunch of people at the table, and I think a journalist asked him, you know, what about the Epstein files? And he was like, oh, why are we still talking about that? You know, just there's stuff that he's done. And I watched an interview with Marjorie Taylor Greene yesterday, and she flat out said that Trump called her a traitor because she would not back off the Epstein files. And that, he also said to her face that it would hurt his friends if they were released. Now everybody's blaming Bondi, but the fact is he's her boss. If he wanted this stuff released, and they're still redacting the names, you know, there's emails talking about torture, and they're saying that there's nobody to go after. That's insane. I just don't buy it, Jeff.
Well, look, let me be brutally honest with you, Steve, like I'm in the confessional, okay? It breaks my heart to say this because I admired him. And look, I'm not, even now, I'm not the kind of guy I don't wash my hands of people. I don't. Steve Bannon is a brilliant man. He is. And he laid out a brilliant strategy in 2016. And I've read articles about him. I've read interviews with him. I've heard him occasionally, and highly intelligent, very acute political mind. One of the best defenders of the MAGA cause. I'm sorry. I'm not going to now claim that the guy's an idiot when he's not. But I'm sorry. You look at the Epstein files, and he is a close friend of Trump. I know they had their differences, and basically Bannon left after about a year in his first term. But overall, Bannon has been a ferocious defender of the president. He's a close friend of the president. He's visited the president many times at Mar-a-Lago. They go back many, many years. He should be indicted. He should first be investigated. Now, again, everybody's innocent until proven guilty. Okay, I want to say that, and that's important. But you look at Elon is all over this. Just look up Elon Musk's X account and see what he's saying and exposing about Steve Bannon. And by the way, just look into the Epstein files. They go back. Bannon and Epstein go back years. This is after Epstein was convicted. This is after he was a registered sex offender. This was after he was a known pedophile. I can't tell you. They hung out together hundreds of times. He went to Epstein Island repeatedly. You have the email exchanges where this is maybe 6 months before, even 3 months before Epstein is arrested the second time, and then eventually, the alleged suicide in the jail cell. And Epstein is like, they're doing an operation on you. You got to fight back. You got to have a really good PR media strategy. We're going to defend you no matter what. And I'm here to help you. I'm at your service. Oh my God. Why are you protecting a known pedophile? And ferociously defending a known pedophile. And not just that, you're my dear friend. You're one of my closest friends. And I'm looking like, whoa. And I gotta ask, what the hell were you doing on Epstein Island? I gotta ask. And Steve, again, let me be even more honest, like I'm in the confessional, okay? Because I'm a very devout Catholic. And this is one of the things I admired about Bannon when he would do his War Room show. He'd have a statue of the Virgin Mary. He'd have a portrait of Jesus. He would have a cross. In other words, he wasn't afraid to talk about his religious beliefs and his Christianity and his outspoken Catholicism. And I'm thinking, whoa, you're covering yourself in religious icons? As I realize now you're in bed with this guy? A monster? One of the most notorious child molesters and pedophiles in human history? I swear I'm going to throw up. Honest to God, I'm going to throw up. So there's your friend. I'm sure there's more, but to your point, that's one of the friends that he's protecting and defending. I think there's no question. And what breaks my heart is this is a 99-1 scandal. It's, if you take 100 people from the Epstein files, 99 are Democrats, one is a Republican or MAGA. In this case, it has to be, it happens to be high profile, it's Bannon. But my point is, my God, you got a former president. He should be going down. He's in a freaking hot tub, for God's sake. There's pictures of him. Those girls, if they're not underage, what did they card him and say, all right, did you just turn 18 today? Because they're on the line, man. If that's not 17, 16, it's 18 and a very young looking 18, okay? Bill Clinton should be going down. Hillary Clinton should be going down. Bill Gates should be going down. Reid Hoffman should be going down. Noam Chomsky should be in handcuffs. Larry Summers should be in handcuffs. This would decimate and destroy the Democratic Party. There's no question. And because of Bannon, I'm just guessing, and I don't know who else, they're being told, no, everybody gets a pass. Everybody gets a pass. Because you see, and by the way, this is what the Clintons are threatening. Because they're going to now face questioning. They're going to testify under oath. And, Bill literally told Comer, I want you to know, you come at me hard, meaning really tough questions, we're going to burn the whole house down. We're going to name names. And your president is not going to be happy. So I think they're referring to Bannon. In other words, Bill and Hillary Clinton are going to go scorched earth on Bannon. And say, okay, I mean, you really want to go there? You bring us down, we're going to take you down. Now, look, I'm sorry. If Bannon's guilty, he's guilty. That's it. Nothing else to say. So I agree with you. I think in the end, the buck stops with President Trump. And I didn't vote for him to protect his friends. I voted for him to take them all down and let the chips fall where they may. Final word to you, Steve.
Yeah, it's disgusting. And in the end, it comes down to Trump. And he's got some soul searching to do. He needs to either get it done or just admit, everybody's going to walk.
If everybody walks, it's going to be heartbreaking. I'm not going to lie to you. It's going to be really, really heartbreaking. And I don't think it's worth it. Look, if the president's people are listening, he dodged a bullet. He did. I believe it was a miracle. I really believe God saved him in Butler, Pennsylvania. And I know that he saw that as a religious experience. I know that. Trump did. And that God said, I want to save you because you have great things to do. I'm not finished with you yet. Mr. President, you're going to meet your maker. We all have to meet our maker. He's going to ask you, what did you do about the Epstein files? Because the victims are crying out in the middle of the night. These were children, innocent young girls, mostly. Did you bring their perpetrators to justice? Or did you let them walk? Don't sell your soul for Steve Bannon or whoever you're protecting. They're not worth it. They're not worth it. Okay? Just my honest opinion. 617-266, Steve, as always, very good call. 617-266-6868. Okay, I want to quickly reset, take a lot more calls. The Epstein files were released, obviously, the latest tranche of documents, over 3 million. It is massive. Emails, documents, memos, pictures, photographs, videotapes. It is devastating, particularly to the Democratic Party. This is a massive Democrat scandal, and that's why you're not hearing practically anything about it. And so my question to you, will the victims ever see justice? Do you think we will ever get justice? Or are they all going to get away with it? 617-266-6868 is the number. You can also text the Kuhner Man, 70470, 70470. Okay, my friends, I want to play a few cuts. It's going to turn your stomach, and I'm sorry. I know it's early. Many of you are probably even still having breakfast, but these cuts need to be played. So, Ghislaine Maxwell, who, as I said, is basically Jeffrey Epstein's pimp, or madam, or whatever you want to call her. She was the middle woman who was trafficking girls to Epstein. It's very clear. He was molesting and raping these girls, torturing in some cases. Okay, she's a very sick, evil woman. She has been found guilty, 20 years in prison, for the sex trafficking of minors. She wants clemency from President Trump. So it's not even anymore that she said, well, I'm willing to testify about everything I truly know and everything I truly saw about what happened on Epstein Island and the infamous client list. But now in exchange for immunity, she no longer just wants immunity, meaning my involvement and I won't be prosecuted anymore, which I would give. to be brutally, to get justice for the victims. It's a tough pill to swallow, but I'd say, okay, you testify, you tell the truth and nothing but the truth. We are not going to prosecute you for anything else that you were involved in, but just tell us exactly what happened with Epstein and who else was involved. All right? It would be a controversial plea agreement. I get it. But justice for these young, now they're not so young, but at the time, for those young victims, I would do it. But now she wants something else. Okay? Now this little piglet wants something else. Now she wants clemency. Basically, she wants Trump to free her from prison, from her 20-year prison sentence. So, and she's making this appeal. She's hoping that Trump will grant clemency. And so she went to testify in front of the House Oversight Committee. She was deposed. And one of the reasons why she was deposed is that she claims that the Department of Justice settled with 29 other potential defendants, that they allegedly cut deals with 29 other potential defendants. And so she's saying, well, if they settled with them, why won't they settle with me? And so immediately Comer said, well, okay, tell us the names. Which 29 powerful people did the Justice Department essentially say, we will not prosecute you? And this was their chance to spill the beans. This was their chance to finally reveal the truth about some of the powerful perpetrators, these powerful men in $2,000 suits molesting underage girls and in some cases underage boys, and exactly her full role and exactly what Epstein did and who was an integral part or collaborator in this international pedophile network. Now, remember, we are talking about the torture, rape, molestation, and assault of young children, many of them girls, as young as 9, 10, and 11 years old. Okay? Many of them were 13, 14, 15, but some of them were as young as 9, 10, and 11. We're talking hundreds of victims here. Listen to this witch. She's cold. She's got ice in her veins. I believe she's a sociopath. Roll cut 1. Mike.
Ms. Maxwell, were you a close friend and confidant of Jeffrey Epstein?
I would like to answer your question, but on the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer this question and any related questions. My habeas petition is pending in the Southern District of New York. I therefore invoke my right to silence under the Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution.
Let the record reflect that Ms. Maxwell has invoked the Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination. Ms. Maxwell, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Unbelievable. This is the committee lawyer, okay, on behalf of the House Oversight Committee. Simple question. Were you a close friend and confidant of Jeffrey Epstein? Of course, yes. But that opens up everything. No, in other words, against self-incrimination. Okay, let me play one more. Roll cut 1A. Mike.
Ms. Maxwell, did you at any time play any role in Jeffrey Epstein's activities involving the recruitment, grooming, or trafficking of young women or girls?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Let the record reflect that Ms. Maxwell has invoked the Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination. Ms. Maxwell, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
I mean, this is a cold witch. I mean, there's no remorse. There's no conscience. There's no guilt. By the way, the answer is yes. Were you a close confidant of Epstein? Yes. Did you play, were you involved in the recruitment, grooming, or trafficking of young women or girls? Yes. That's why you were found guilty. And she wants Trump to give her clemency over my dead body. I'm telling you, over my dead body. So, I'm going to ask all of you the poll question of the day right after this break. 617-266-6868 is the number. You just heard Ghislaine Maxwell. She said, and by the way, every question that she was asked, every question, she pled the fifth.
Ms. Maxwell, have you ever coerced, directed, or otherwise instructed any young woman or girl to provide sexual favors to Mr. Epstein or any other individual?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Let the record reflect that Ms. Maxwell has invoked the Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination. Ms. Maxwell, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Okay, answer, yes. Translation, yes. Yes, I'm guilty as sin. Yes. 7:33 on the great WRKO, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, look, there's no sign whatsoever that President Trump is even thinking of giving this witch, and you know what I really want to call her, but I can't because I don't want to get fined. This little witch, okay, this little piglet, a clemency. She wants clemency, basically a get-out-of-jail-free card. No, Trump is not even thinking about it. There's no hint that he's thinking about it. She is petitioning him to get a clemency. And so, but I'm still, I got to say it. Mr. President, for whatever reason, if you give this woman your clemency, I'm telling you, you're going to lose my support. I love you like a brother, man. But this woman is a freaking monster. You know, I mean, the devil spit her out from the depths of hell. Where Epstein found this one, to me, she's as bad as Epstein. And by the way, just so that you know, the victims say that she participated herself in some of the molestation and the sexual violence and even the torture of these young underage girls. So she wasn't just someone who fed him the girls and drugged them and manipulated them. No, she liked to get off on it as well with Jeffrey. So, I mean, this woman is a freaking monster. Okay? The devil's spawn. That's what she is. Okay, so to me, it's, look, Mr. President, whatever you do, don't give this woman clemency. Because I'm telling you, you're going to lose my support. And I think you're going to lose the support of most of the country. It would be an act of absolute political suicide for you to do this. Not that he's planning to. I don't think he will. In fact, I'm very confident he won't. But, you know, she's putting a lot of pressure on him, and her friends, and she still has very powerful friends, if you can believe it, they're putting pressure on Trump. So, the poll question, the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. Should President Trump grant Epstein co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell clemency in exchange for testimony? That's now her big play. You want me to talk about what I really did and who was involved and the full nature and extent of the pedophile ring and Jeffrey Epstein? I'm not asking for immunity. No. I want clemency. Get out of jail. So, should President Trump grant Epstein co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell clemency in exchange for her testimony? A, yes. B, no. You know where I stand? I'm a hell no on this one. And by the way, she's a liar. She's an incorrigible, pathological liar. So can you even trust what comes out of her mouth? But anyway, that's just me. Let that go. A yes, B no. You can vote on our webpage, WRKO.com, WRKO.com/Kuhner, WRKO.com/Kuhner, KUHN is in national ER. You can also vote via X. And yep, last night, very active on X. My handle there, all one word, KUHNER, at the Kuhner Report. KUHN is in national ER. John in Peabody. Thanks for holding, John, and welcome.
The great and all powerful Kuhner.
John, buddy, haven't heard from you in a while. How are you, my friend?
It has been a while, Jeff. Hey, Jeff, allow me to weigh in something
yes,
here.
Go ahead.
I hope, and basically, everyone understands that AI is at its peak right now. It is the new world infrastructure. It's winning the campaign on falsehood narratives and everything else. This story itself, it's been, how should I say, in the news, out of the news. In the news, out of the news. Disappears for months, back in the news. Out of the news, in the news, and it continues. And I think the longer this story keeps going on, it gives all of these power-hungry people more time to find ways to get out of their, how should I say, to get away from their solid convictions. But like I said, with AI, so much could be done with pictures, videos, false narratives. It's such a perfect recipe for criminals like this. And the reason that this story just gets so laid back sometimes is because, like it says, as long as Trump is the singular target to change and to redirect everybody's interests, because look at the accession of people who are just so obsessed with embedding their face in this phone to look at all of this crap day after day. My wife's girlfriend is so, she's absolutely obsessed with this, embedding her face in the phone and just talking about all of this. It's like, it's so easy to get people's attention now. Like it says, and with AI, almost anything's possible. I mean, the recipe's changing. It's, in other words, to destroy someone's life, it can be done. But the fact that this particular story, it just keeps lingering on, is I'll never understand it. I'll never understand why this thing drags on. The Clintons, I thought by now, the more they talk about them, the more it just puts me to sleep, because there's nothing going on right now. It's talk that, there is indictments awaiting, but I think it just gives these people in power more time to find their way out of it. And I think it's almost like the statutes of limitations says, well, as long as this story keeps going, the less potency this story becomes, and it just becomes old news. And that's the thing I fear the most is, will we ever set an example about something that just continuously keeps dragging on and dragging on and dragging on? And I just wanted to hear your thoughts about that.
Well, John, look, I think you really put your finger on something important, which is it's always in the background, this Epstein story, but nothing ever really comes to the foreground. And you're right. There's also there's a sense of fatigue that's starting to weigh with the story, because you just it's dribble and dribble and more dribble and more dribble and more dribble, yet nothing happens. And I don't want to repeat myself, but honestly, what is really just stunning is in Europe, this is everywhere. And I don't just mean the media is reporting on it, which they are. People are losing their jobs. Cabinet members are being fired. Top people are resigning. Governments now are on the verge of a no confidence vote, like in Britain, collapsing. It's not just the British royal family now that has been absolutely rocked. It's the Norwegian royal family. This is ricocheting all over Europe. And yet here, because it's a Democrat scandal, predominantly, the media either, ignores it, or they poo-poo it, or they bury it on the back pages, or they hardly mention it. And I think it's deliberate. I think there's no question. And look, when I come back, just very quickly, I'm gonna mention some of the names, not the ones that I talked about earlier. I'm gonna mention other names. And this is a who's who in terms of the Democratic Party, who their top donors are. I mean, these are the wealthiest men in the United States. And by the way, many of them are also top people in the media. Okay, so I've mentioned now many of the names. Overwhelmingly, as I said, it's 99-1 Democrat. You've got Bill Gates. We're talking STDs allegedly from these Epstein files that he contracted after having sex with young Russian girls. He was asking Epstein to help him get medication or prescriptions to take care of these STDs. By the way, his own wife came out and said, I'm happy all this is coming out because that's the kind of monster Bill Gates is. Reid Hoffman, huge Democrat donor. He is a multi-billionaire, really Hillary Clinton's sugar daddy. He has underwritten the Clintons for the last 30 years. Noam Chomsky, the guru of the left, the darling of the left, the intellectual of the left, that phony, that fraud. Woody Allen, obviously Bill and Hillary Clinton, they're going to be deposed and they're going to testify under oath on February 26, February 27. Pictures of Bubba in a hot tub with Ghislaine Maxwell and apparently 16 visits to Epstein Island. 16. He says he never went there. Apparently the evidence, again, catches Bubba lying. I mentioned Steve Bannon, MAGA, a close friend of Trump. He is deeply implicated with Epstein. Larry Summers, Prince Andrew, Peter Mandelson, very top aide to Keir Starmer in Britain. Now, there's more. There's so many more. But let me just give you some other names, okay? And you'll see what I mean when I say this is a massive Democrat scandal. Former Senate Majority Leader George Mitchell. That name should ring a bell. He was a very powerful Democrat from Maine in the 1980s and 1990s. He helped with the Good Friday Agreement. He was one of the key negotiators that ended the fighting in Northern Ireland. Well, guess what? He comes up dozens, and I mean dozens of times, in exchanges with Jeffrey Epstein after Epstein was a convicted sex offender. And apparently, there's a lot of, according to Epstein accuser, Virginia Giuffre, I think is how you pronounce her last name. She recently was committed suicide. Her family says she was killed, but she was the one that wrote that devastating tell-all memoir. Anyway, apparently she committed suicide. Her family says it's not true. She was murdered. Whatever. Giuffre. Okay, my bad. Virginia Giuffre. In a 2016 deposition that was released in 2019, she says that she was forced, when she was underage, to have sex with George Mitchell at Epstein Island, that he forced her to have sex. He basically raped her. Mitchell has now denied the allegations, and so far he has not been charged with any crimes related to Epstein. However, Giuffre, or however you pronounce her, Giuffre, says no. He was with Epstein. Mitchell wanted to molest me. He wanted to sexually, have sex with me, sexually violate me, and I was forced to have sex with him. So that's George Mitchell. Okay. Andrew, and by the way, top Democrat, was their Senate, their Senate Majority Leader for years. Andrew Farkas, that name should ring a bell. He is a real estate mogul, a multi-billionaire. Apparently co-owned a marina with Epstein in St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands. They were buddies. Absolute buddies for years after Epstein's conviction. And he had to register for life as a sex offender. I mean, they exchanged book recommendations. They made phone calls. They coordinated visits. I mean, he and Epstein were buds, best friends. And so in one email to Epstein, this is December 30th, 2010, he writes, quote, "You are one of the blessings in my life, and I cherish our friendship." In another message, Farkas complained, listen to this, about the quote-unquote lack of parties with hot women at the Montreal Grand Prix. And apparently Epstein, I can't use this language on the air, but he used very derogatory language about women, the way he referred to them. And then Epstein responded to him saying, quote, "The whining of women and engines is what makes it okay for 10 minutes. And I mean, this is, and basically Epstein provided him the hot women. He wasn't into underage women, apparently, but he was into quote unquote hot women, and Epstein was his pimp. Okay, CBS News. Peter Attia. He is this contributor. Apparently he's an influencer. He's some kind of a food science influencer. Never heard of this loser. But anyway, apparently Peter Attia is a big contributor at CBS News. And he and Epstein he's an anti-aging influencer. He's now a big-time CBS News contributor. He's mentioned more than 1,700 times in these latest release of the files. And just in emails from 2015 through 2018, it's disgusting. But let me just give you, I'm going to clean it up, okay? This is not, by the way, this is the media. This is Peter Attia. Okay, he's a top guy at CBS News. I don't want to use a certain phrase because there are children in the car and it's a family show. So I don't want the children to ask the parents or the mother or the dad, what a certain sex act is. So I'm going to clean it up a little bit. The sex act that Monica Lewinsky performed on Bill Clinton. Okay? All right? So, oral, what? Attia told Epstein in multiple emails that performing a Lewinsky, but this time on women, so him doing it to women, was quote-unquote low carb. That's a low-carb way to exercise. And apparently they were into shipments of women. And maybe even shipment of young girls, I don't know, but definitely in shipments of women. And that Epstein kept feeding him as many women as he wanted. And Attia, by the way, this is one of the top guys at CBS, writes, quote, to Epstein, the biggest problem with becoming friends with you? The life you lead is so outrageous, and yet I can't tell a soul. Don't tell me he didn't know that Epstein was diddling young girls. At a bare minimum. He knew. Of course he knew. Okay. It goes on and on. Look, let me just give you one more, and then I'm going to go back to the phone lines. Leon Black. Now, this is a very big name. He is one of the top hedge fund people in the world. He is a multi-billionaire. He is the CEO and director of Apollo Global Management. Now, it's not just that he is obscenely wealthy. Again, we're talking billions and billions and billions of dollars. He helps to bankroll the Democratic Party. He's one of the top hedge fund Wall Street guys on the planet. He bankrolls the Democrats, their campaigns, their NGOs, their causes. They take out, if this guy alone goes down, the Democrats have lost a major financial economic pillar. Okay? A major pillar. Well, apparently, he was caught lying. Leon Black initially said that they had a strictly professional relationship, okay, with Epstein. Apparently, though, emails are now in this latest document dump. Listen to this. From 2010 to 2017, it appears that there's email after email after email in which there are pictures of naked women, some of them extremely young, and apparently Epstein was telling his people, and apparently they were young women, to give Leon Black a massage. That he was constantly providing massage services for Leon. And that at these massages, the women were told explicitly to perform Monica Lewinsky. I don't want to say it. To perform a Lewinsky on him. Now, by the way, Leon Black also faces multiple lawsuits alleging that he raped women and girls, including an autistic teen. So a poor woman who apparently a young girl, underage, teenager, who had autism. And she said that he attacked her during a massage at Epstein's Manhattan home. Hey, these people are freaking sick. They're freaking sick. So Ghislaine Maxwell would not just recruit underage girls, but he got special needs autistic girls and then had them perform, all kinds of sexual acts on these disgusting, filthy billionaires, giving them massages and then forcing them to perform sex acts. Now, Leon Black is a who's who in the Democratic Party, if you know anything about fundraising and their donors. This is a Democrat scandal through and through. Through and through. Now you know why the media doesn't want justice. Now you know why they're not giving this wall-to-wall coverage. Instead, they're obsessed with Savannah Guthrie's mother. And again, I feel very sorry for her. But how many times can you keep telling us you know nothing about the investigation? I mean, I'm not kidding. I've never seen media coverage like this in my life. It's 9-10 days now. And, she was abducted. No, she wasn't abducted. She was kidnapped. No, she's not kidnapped. She's in Mexico. No, she's not in Mexico. I mean, that's like, you don't know what you're all speculating. It's just 10 days of nonstop speculation. And they just keep going and going and going. Meanwhile, here is one of the most devastating, biggest document dumps exposing unspeakable crimes against children, overwhelmingly perpetrated by not just the most powerful globalists in the world, and they are all very powerful globalists, but some of the most powerful Democrats, whether it be former presidents, whether it be Hollywood actors, whether it be their top donors, whether it be former Senate majority leaders. I mean, take your pick. The Republicans should be going to town over this. Instead, nothing. I mean, nothing. It's just, to me, it's incredible. Joe in Abington. Thanks for holding, Joe, and welcome.
Jeff, how are you?
I'm very good, Joe.
Jeff, I was listening since 6 a.m., and the first thing that hit me was all these strange names. When was the first time in the last few days that you knew Noel Chomsky was involved in this?
I got to tell you, that was a surprise. That was a surprise on many levels. And the biggest one being, I mean, he is Mr. Anti-Capitalist, Mr. Anti-Rich, Mr. Anti-1%. When I say they studied at the feet of Noam Chomsky, I mean, I'm not exaggerating. AOC has read practically every book he's written. Bernie Sanders says him and Saul Alinsky were one of his biggest intellectual influences. I could go on. Mamdani reveres him. So this is the intellectual giant of the radical Democrat left, and he's buddies with a billionaire, and he's partying with a billionaire, and he's hanging out and apparently having, God knows what they're doing with a billionaire? You want to talk about a filthy hypocrite. And that's another reason. Just his name alone, if this comes out, this destroys the Democrats because he's their intellectual guru. As I said, they worship at the feet of Noam Chomsky. And this guy was palling around and protecting, at a minimum, a pedophile, and most likely was involved in all God knows what kind of deviant sexual acts, because he went to Epstein Island over. By the way, he flew on Epstein's private jet. Oh, and Epstein kept giving him money. Epstein had his claws in him. So this phony, this fraud, Mr. Man of the People, I hate the rich, partied with the rich, ate with the rich, had sex with the rich. I mean, it's beyond disgusting. It's beyond disgusting. The only thing I think that's saving Chomsky is he's in his 80s now. And so for about the last 6-7 years, he's kind of faded from the scene. But if, say, you roll back the clock 10 years, that name alone, this would be an international story because of Chomsky's influence with the left, not just in America, but in Europe. I mean, you don't get bigger than Noam Chomsky. The only other one is Saul Alinsky. But I digress. Go ahead, Joe.
Yes, I just said that I was surprised because I've heard about him and I've read his stuff and I knew he hated America. He was a communist and he was like Saul Alinsky and all the other names that are very strange. Steve Bannon, that stuff, that hit me out of the blue. Larry Summers, Woody Allen. I mean, how many more of these are going to happen? But my point of the whole call is, Jeff, how many people benefited by Jeffrey Epstein being unalived, supposedly?
Well, there you go. I think that's the $64,000 question, Joe. Everybody wanted him dead. Nobody wanted him to talk, and he was going to talk. There was a massive incentive to take this guy out. And conveniently, he died. And the cover story they've given us, that they've given us, it doesn't pass muster. It just doesn't. It's a lie. And we're being deliberately lied to. And I think we, the American people, deserve the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Now, look, let me tell you, this will destroy Wall Street. The names I'm giving, they're not household names, but behind the scenes, these are the power brokers. These are the donors. These are the globalists. You know, when we say the ones pulling the strings, these are the ones who pull the strings. These are the wealthiest of the wealthy, the most powerful of the powerful. And they're directly involved and implicated. This, if we had a proper investigation, a truly honest FBI, a truly honest DOJ, this would destroy Wall Street. It would bring down Wall Street. It would bring down Hollywood. It would bring down the media. And it would bring down the Democratic Party. At a bare minimum. It's going to potentially bring down royal families. It may bring down a couple, maybe 2, even 3 governments in Europe. And that's just, there's still another 3 million they don't want to release. This is it. According to Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General, when he delivered his press conference, he said in total there's 6 million. They released the first 3 million documents and, photographs and tapes. But there's another 3 million and they're saying they're not going to release the other 3 million. Which begs the question, qui bono, who benefits? Why? Why are you afraid to release the second half, the remaining 3 million documents? Whose names are there? And what are they accused of? 617-266-6868. Thank you for that call, Joe. Chip in Marshfield. Thanks for holding, Chip, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you today?
Very good, Chip. Very good.
It's good to talk to you again. I remember, like I said, I had mentioned before, I used to be a fan of Michael Savage as your protege, and he said it best 25 years ago, Jeff, when he said Democrats aren't Democrats, they're Democrats. And if you take a look, they focus a lot on younger people, the Democrat Party. 99% of the problem up there with the Epstein case involves Democrats, which gives you an idea. But going back, too, with this Epstein, quote-unquote, suicide, you know, there were a couple of reports that came out, one by the FBI that said that the sheet that was used for him to hang himself couldn't support 200 pounds, which was his weight at the time. So they questioned about this sheet, number one. Number two is he's in a high-security prison. And how is it that both guards happen to not be there, the camera happened to be broken at the same time? My last comment about that is Michael Baden. A lot of people don't know who he is, but he's probably the United States foremost, what do you call it there, medical examiner.
Yeah, forensic. He's a forensic specialist.
Right, and he said, quote unquote, that this death was not caused by a suicide, it was strangulation, according to the fractures in his throat. So, you know, I have a problem with that. So anyway, Jeffrey Epstein said, I'm going to spill the beans. And what happens to him? He's dead. Virginia Jeffrey, as you mentioned earlier, came out and wrote up a report, and less than a year later, she was dead. And she even told all her friends for the months prior to her death, I did not and I will not kill myself. I am not suicidal. And her parents said the same thing about her. Now, the issue, too, is there's just so much money involved in this. As you said, they're Democrat fundraisers, and whether they're Reid Hoffmans or Bill Gates or any one of these other evil people out there, that money is doing a job there suppressing all this evidence. There are people out there that are on the payroll that are getting paid. I'd like to see the bank accounts of the two security guards that weren't at their station when Epstein died. And I think the FBI itself has this information, and they're afraid.
Oh, they're afraid. Of course they're afraid. And that's why Bongino, chickened out and he left. And Kash Patel is keeping silent. Okay, a couple lines are open. I want to ask all of you, what do you make now of these damning revelations in the latest Epstein dump, a document dump, 3 million and counting, pictures, videotapes, emails, memos, you name it. It's all, not all, but a lot of it has come out. Is this a Democrat scandal? Yes or no? Are you shocked by everything that's coming out? And I think the ultimate question is, do you think anybody will end up going behind bars? Will anybody end up paying a price and actually go to jail for unspeakable crimes against children and minors? 617-266-6868. Mark in Medford. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. So the first thing I want to say is this. Yes, I agree. This is definitely a Democrat scandal. But I don't care if it's a Democrat, a Republican, an independent, a super billionaire mogul, a celebrity. If you were involved illegally with Jeffrey Epstein and whatever happened on that island, then yes, you should be indicted, prosecuted, and sent to prison. Now, with that being said, Jeff, for the last 3 years, especially during the presidential campaigns, okay, all we heard out of Democrats' mouths was, we must release the Epstein files. We must release the Epstein files because we know Donald Trump is in there and we know he's done more illegal things than probably anybody on that list. Okay, well, come to find out, not only is his name not mentioned once in the friggin' files, Jeff, okay, but it's Steve Bannon. Okay, you know what? Out of all the names you mentioned, Jeff, Steve Bannon is small potatoes compared to the names you mentioned. So you know what? If Steve Bannon is guilty, then yeah, he should go to prison.
Mark, by the way, you're dead on. I mean, man, are you dead on. Mark, you're right. Look, it's been years now. The Democrats, the media have been saying, release the files, release the files. Trump is guilty as sin. He's a pedophile. He was involved with Epstein. And it turns out it's literally the exact opposite. No victim has accused Trump of any wrongdoing. In fact, quite the opposite. They all say, no, we're not accusing him because he's innocent. Virginia Giuff repeatedly said, I'm telling you, I never saw him there. Epstein's own lawyer said when he was arrested under Trump, and this is, a month or two before he committed suicide. And I said, look, Jeffrey, if you got anything on Trump, now is the time because that's the leverage that we have. And he said, I'm telling you, there's nothing on Trump. I've got nothing on the guy. So Epstein himself said there was nothing on Trump. In fact, what the files show, Mark, is that Epstein over and over again says, I hate Trump. I can't stand the guy. In other words, he had nothing to do with Trump after, 2005 or whenever it was, after Trump kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. So again, the media has been pushing another hoax, another pack of lies. And you're right. It appears that if Trump is covering this up, it's to protect people like Bannon, his friends. And you're right. Compared to the names, Bannon is super small potatoes. I mean, you want to compare him to Bill Clinton? Just to give the obvious example, to Bill Gates, one of the wealthiest men in the world? We're talking about the very globalist elite is on that list. I mean, you want to smash globalism? We have their elites in the palm of our hands. The wealthiest, most powerful men behind the scenes are right there. Name after name after name after name. To me, the Republicans are insane if they don't go after this. But that's me. Mark, I've got to ask you, are you shocked that Bannon, his name keeps appearing, and all of the contact he had with Epstein, including him saying, I'm your buddy, I'm your friend, and apparently I'm even going to run a PR campaign to defend you, and this was maybe 2 months before he committed suicide. Are you shocked about the extent of Bannon's involvement with Epstein?
I am surprised, but like I said, if I knew Steve Bannon did that when this all came out, I probably would have been calling for him to be arrested, indicted, and arrested. But Jeff, I'm going to give you another reason why all of a sudden now the Democrats are not talking about the Epstein file, and why the media now could care less about the Epstein files, because I want to hear some names that we haven't heard yet on the political side, Jeff. Except for the Clintons, I want to hear senators, I want to hear Congress people, because Jeff, if that comes out, the reason why they won't release those names, it would absolutely...
Oh, it would destroy the Democrats. It would wipe them out. There's no question. It would wipe them out. Mark, as always, dynamite call. And so on and on it went yesterday. It's Ghislaine Maxwell being deposed by the House Oversight Committee, and the committee lawyer is asking the most basic questions. And she's I plead the fifth. And they say, is it against self-incrimination? I plead the fifth. Anyway, so she refuses to answer any questions because she desperately wants a deal with President Trump. And what she's done is she's now saying, forget immunity. Give me clemency, and I will tell you everything I know about my involvement, Epstein, and the powerful people that were part of his international pedophile ring, and everybody in his so-called client list. Listen now. This is House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer. He was on Fox News and talking about Maxwell's, the deal she's putting on the table. Basically, get out of jail. Okay, a get out of jail card, clemency, in exchange for her full testimony. Roll cut 4, Mike.
Several months ago, she said she would come testify in front of the House Oversight Committee if we would grant her immunity. There was very little support on the House Oversight Committee after we met with the victims, and they described just horrible crimes committed by Miss Maxwell. There was very little support to grant her immunity. Now she's come back and said, well, she'll talk if she's granted clemency by President Trump. And, oh, by the way, I can prove that Donald Trump and Bill Clinton both were innocent. So, that's going to be a decision up to President Trump. I don't think there's a lot of public support to grant her clemency.
No, there's none. I think there's none, really. Who wants to give that witch clemency? And by the way, she's going to give testimony that Bill Clinton is innocent? Really? So what do you know? So are you going to believe you're lying, me or your lying eyes? No, that dog don't hunt. Okay? I'm sorry. So, no, we've seen the pictures. We have the testimony of the victims. We've got, you're not going to get away with this, Bubba. You may eventually not go to jail. But now to claim somehow that Maxwell is going to run to Bill Clinton's defense and we're all going to believe it? Yeah, that's what I mean. She's a liar. She's a liar. All this woman did was lie for 40 plus years on behalf of Epstein in order to further his sick, evil schemes. Now, listen to Kuhner saying she refused to answer the most basic questions. And it was the way she kept invoking the Fifth Amendment. There's no conscience in this woman. There's no remorse in this woman. There's no sense of right or wrong. There's no guilt. She's pathological. I'm telling you, this woman, she's a walking, breathing, living sociopath. You can see she has no remorse to everything she's done. Everything she did to those underage girls. She couldn't care less. All she wants is to get out of prison so she can party, and party, as they say here in Massachusetts. Okay? Party, party, party. That's all she's interested in. Going right back to the lifestyle that she left. Roll cut 4A, Mike.
In the deposition today, these were questions that every American, regardless of political ideology, would ask, and she continued to invoke her Fifth Amendment rights to avoid self-incrimination. It was very disturbing to watch because the questions were so bad when you're talking about underage girls and co-conspirators and, the lack of emotion and the pleading the Fifth to avoid self-incrimination. It was very disturbing.
You better believe it was disturbing. I just played a couple of cuts and people are emailing me, messaging me, Jeff, please stop. Please stop, Jeff. It's turning my stomach. I can't take it. Jeff, honestly, I'm going to vomit. I have never turned a dial on you before. I'm going to have to because I'm just going to throw up. Did you molest or rape underage girls? I'm going to plead the Fifth. Against my right against self-incrimination. Did you help Epstein? Did you procure women and young girls for Epstein to rape and to molest? I plead the Fifth against my right to self-incrimination. I'm a sick monster. This woman is sick. Over my dead body. Over my dead body does this woman get clemency. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. So let me put it all on the table. Should President Trump make a deal, or should his DOJ, to be more accurate, make a deal with Ghislaine Maxwell in exchange for her full testimony about her role, Epstein, the client list, everything she knows about that international pedophile ring that they were running, in exchange to get out of jail free, in exchange for clemency? Deal or no deal? You know my position. Hell no, but that's me. I want to hear from you. Ben on the North Shore. Thanks for holding, Ben, and welcome.
Yeah, hi. Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Ben.
No clemency. I'd be willing to give it an immunity, but she's got to finish the rest of her term. Of course, we do know if a Democrat wins the presidency in 828, we know she'll be released. But the other thing is, we can't get nothing out because they're allowed to lie because Obama repealed that section of Smith-Mundt. Why don't they get that back in effect? That's just, to me, as important as the SAVE Act, so that these Democrats can't go out there and keep lying.
Oh, I agree. Ben, I agree. Look, this broke yesterday, okay, just to reinforce your point. And I put it up on my X account last night, and it really made the rounds. It went viral. Catherine Herridge, if that name rings a bell, she used to be the national security reporter for Fox News. Anyway, she made a jump over to CBS. Long story short, Catherine Herridge yesterday admitted, okay, it came straight from her mouth, admitted that the bosses at CBS News ordered her, let me repeat this, they ordered her not to disclose the truth about Hunter Biden's laptop until after the 2022 midterm elections. She said, no, they told me, you're not going to tell them it's not Russian disinformation. You're not going to tell them it's all true. It really is Hunter's laptop. And yes, all of the images and all of the pictures and everything, the ties to the Ukrainians, the Russian prostitutes snorting cocaine off their rear ends, running a pay-to-play operation, Burisma, all of it. It's all true. It's all on the laptop. They said to her, unless we'll fire you, unless you unless you don't want to lose your job, you are not going to tell the American people the truth until after the 2022 midterms, because our goal is to help the Democrats win. Now, as I said yesterday, I don't know how much more obvious now. I mean, it's like, what do we need? A hammer over the head? The media is not in the news or the truth business. They're now simply a mouthpiece for the Democrat Party. That's it. That's their job. That's their mission. And by the way, to me, I think Catherine Herridge should be ashamed of herself. I would have resigned on the spot, and I would have told the world what my bosses asked me to do, but let that go. Okay? At least she told, to me, it's, 5 years too late, but better late than never. So, I mean, just to back up your point, Ben, about the Smith-Mundt Act, this is not news. This is propaganda. So they told her, don't report the truth because it will hurt Biden and the Democrats. If you're going to do it after the midterms, because after then we don't care. So now you know why nobody trusts the media, Ben, and that's why we've got to restore the Smith-Mundt Act. Final word to you, Ben.
Completely agree. One other quick point is all these, I certainly hope Trump gives it out and lets them, eliminate so all these names can be prosecuted or whatever. But the only thing I wonder about, isn't that a 5-year statute of limitation? I don't think anyone's going to go to jail over it.
Well, I mean, it depends what crimes you want to prosecute. But rape, there's no statute of limitations. Pedophilia, molesting a child, there's no statute of limitations. Sex trafficking, running a sex trafficking ring or being involved in it. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, you want to hear propaganda. You got to listen to this, okay? This is what the Democrats and their media allies are pushing about Trump and the Epstein files. And let me just give you this is just a taste. It's nonstop. It's around the clock. It doesn't matter if it's ABC News, CBS News, NBC News. This is CNN or MS Now or the New York Times or the Boston Globe or the Washington Post or the Associated Press. Take your pick, okay? It's the same garbage, the same Democrat talking points. This is Congresswoman, Democrat, Melanie Stansbury at a press conference. So here it is. Roll cut 8, Mike.
There are now at least 9 or 10 other countries across the world that have opened investigations or forced their leaders to step down because of their mere association with Jeffrey Epstein. And the United States government is engaged in an active cover-up of the largest sex trafficking scandal and influence peddling scandal in the history of the United States, and Donald Trump is right at the center of it. And the person who is living to provide the evidence, who knows what is going on, is trying to invoke the Fifth to buy her clemency.
Okay, so just stand back for a second. Epstein was arrested the second time, and that eventually led to his quote-unquote suicide. Was that under Obama? Was that under Biden? Oh, no, it was under Trump. It was Trump and his DOJ that arrested Epstein. So, hold on. Why, if he's at the center of this cover-up, why is he the one that arrested Epstein? Why is he the one, by the way, that his people prosecuted Ghislaine Maxwell and got her 20 years in the can? Okay, that doesn't seem to add up. Okay, who now? For years, under Joe Biden, 4 full years, they had access to all of the Epstein files, every single document, every picture, every videotape, everything. What did they do? Nothing. They sat on it. They sat on it. And they left no stone unturned. They were desperate to get Trump. They were looking to politically take him out, bankrupt his business, put him behind bars for 1,000 years. And you're telling me if there was anything in these files, they wouldn't have found it and used it? But if you're talking about a cover-up, what did Biden do? Nothing. Did he even release a single document? One, not 3 million, one. And yet. And suddenly now, after Trump, what is it now? We're looking at 3 million documents and counting? 3 million. And he's the one covering up the Epstein, covering up what's in the Epstein files? You can't make this up. But it gets even worse. Here now, breaking news. Listen now to this, okay? According now to a now retired police officer and who informed FBI agents in 2019, and this revelation is now contained in a newly unsealed court document that was released yesterday by the Department of Justice. President Trump in 2006 personally called, at the time, the then Palm Beach Police Chief Michael Ryder and said, quote, "Thank goodness you are stopping Epstein. Everyone has known what that he's been doing this." This was when he was arrested for soliciting sex with a minor, an underage prostitute. And he referred to Epstein in that call with the head of the Palm Beach police chief at the time, quote, as disgusting. And he described Ghislaine Maxwell as, quote unquote, evil. Now, this is back in 2006. The FBI got new information of this in 2019. They didn't want it released to the public because they wanted to continue this false narrative that somehow Trump had ties with Epstein when he severed them 20 years ago, when he was the one that kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. So the only good guy in all of this, the only one that said, no, get this animal and is a disgusting little pimp or madam, get her out of my property, get her off of my club. I want nothing to do with him, with both of them. And he's the one you're trying to blame? When it's Democrat after Democrat after Democrat that's implicated in this scandal? And it was the Democrats, a la Obama, a la Biden, who kept covering it up? Well, of course they're covering it up. I gave you all the names. All their top donors are involved. Their former president, Bill Clinton, both of them, the Clintons, are involved. Their sugar daddy, starting with Bill Gates and Reid Hoffman, they're involved. Their close friends, Larry Summers, he's involved. Chomsky, their intellectual godfather, their intellectual spiritual leader, he's involved. So, of course, they had to cover this thing up. But now you've got actual information that Trump was a whistleblower and was telling then the Palm Beach police chief, you really got to get this guy? Like, this guy is preying on underage girls? And then so when he just heard word, there were no charges, he just heard word that Epstein was under investigation, Trump was, quote, one of the very first people to call the police chief and say, listen to me, you got to arrest this guy, okay? You got to get him. We all know what he's up to. He's molesting and diddling kids, and he's trafficking in underage girls. So they've been spreading lies and falsehoods about his relationship with Epstein and with Ghislaine Maxwell for how many years now? And by the way, he then further said, I want you to know that Ghislaine Maxwell is an integral part of what Epstein is doing, this sex trafficking. She's evil. The key to getting Epstein is getting her. So here, I mean, you know, the facts matter. I mean, does the truth matter? So mark my words. This is going to go down like the Russia collusion hoax, the Hunter Biden laptop, the election of 2020, January 6th, how they covered up as well for Biden's senility. It's now that they're trying to somehow claim that this is Trump's scandal. Bull, you know what? So in 2006, he was the one that blew the whistle on Epstein and told the then police chief, Ryder, get this guy. This guy's in the sex trafficking business. It's an open secret here in Palm Beach. 617-266-6868. Jimmy in Dorchester. Thanks for holding, Jimmy, and welcome.
And Jeff, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, Jeff, I'm going to shock you. With you on what you said about Maxwell, but here's the thing, Jeff. If they get into power in 28 and we don't win, meaning us Republicans, right? They're going to kill her. The first one they get, the globalists or the Democrats, they're going to kill her in their jail cell to get rid of her so she never opens her mouth. But I'm looking at it at another way, Jeff. What if Trump has a lot of information from her on these people, and these pedophiles, they don't continue. They continue doing it even now. It'll keep on going, and God will probably spare Trump for doing that, even though I don't like her, you don't like her, I'm with you on that. She's evil. But the thing is, look at how many of the children that they're probably touching right now are going through this. And here's what I want to say, something, Jeff, that I called you on. It's Alex Soros. In October, he got married to Wiener's ex-wife, right?
Yeah, Huma Abedin.
They had a wedding, and in the New York Post, if anybody got it, it listed all the names of the people that you were mentioning today at his wedding. But there's more to Alex Soros. Are you aware many years ago he used to run these parties with orgies, and people would go to him. I think it was in Las Vegas, in Nevada. If I'm right, Jeff, do you remember that?
Yes.
He used to have all these parties.
Yes.
And a police officer called me, but you were doing your monologue. And he's from Nevada, but he's a nudist, him and his girlfriend. They go all different states. And he said something, mentioned this to Kuhner, because he listens to your program. A lot of people in Nevada, he told me, listen to you, Jeff, you're that popular. But this is what he said.
This, nothing would surprise me. We are talking about acts of depravity that are satanic. And, some of this stuff I don't even want to say on the air because it's that offensive. I mean, I don't know what else to say. And look, Bill Clinton was clearly involved. Hillary Clinton clearly involved. There's no question. And you're right. Look, I mean, these names aren't known to us because we're not in the political world raising money and beholden to donors. But the names that I've been giving all morning, these are the most wealthiest, powerful Democrat billionaire donors in the world. They are at the commanding heights of international finance, the commanding heights of Wall Street, the commanding heights of the Democratic Party. They are the puppet masters. And it's a who's who. And they are all involved, one after another. And you have women now saying, I was forced to have sex with them. Forgive me. It's 9:00 now. I can say it. The kids aren't in the car anymore. I was forced to have oral sex with them. I was, I was 13, 14, 15 years old. I was forced to give them a massage and then to sexually service them. And these are the names now that have come out in this latest massive 3 million document dump. Now, where's CBS News? Where's NBC News? Where's ABC News? Where's CNN? Where's Fake Tapper now on this one? Where's Stephanopoulos? I want to know where Stephanopoulos is. Because let me tell you, this is the dirty secret. When Epstein, now remember, he's now convicted. Okay, he's convicted. Remember, he admitted, he pled guilty to having sex with an underage girl, a prostitute. He then does his time. He's then released. He now has a big birthday bash waiting for him. You know who's at his mansion in New York? Leading Democrats. Not a single Republican was there. Just for the record. Stephanopoulos was there. Diane Sawyer was there. Katie Couric was there. The top producers, top personalities from all of the big networks were there. The top people from CNN were there. At the time, MSNBC were there. Okay? And of course, as I mentioned, top Democrat politicians. And they were drinking champagne and they were eating caviar and having lobster steak. And they were saying to Jeffrey, our friend, you're back, Jeffrey. Here, 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 as they're clanking their glasses with their spoons. Now remember, he had just been released from prison. He's a registered sex offender. And the media was fading him. They were lionizing, celebrating him. You know why? Because they all admitted it. They said no one throws the best, he throws the best parties. No one throws a better party than Jeffrey Epstein. You want cocaine? You got it. You want heroin? You got it. You want women? You got it. You want men? You got it. You want boys? You got it. You want girls? You got it. Whatever sick perversion you're into, he provides it. Okay? As one of his, as Leon Black said to him, oh no, it was Farkas, Andrew Farkas, the big real estate mogul, the guy who donates hundreds of millions of dollars to the Democrats. As he said, you know, life is so boring without you. No one can throw parties like you, Jeffrey. The women, the wine, everything, the booze. It's all you, Jeffrey. Now think about this, okay? The obvious question that nobody in the media has asked. It's so obvious, it's screaming at you. How does a loser and a lowlife and a scumbag like Jeffrey Epstein, how does this guy become a multi-billionaire? Remember, nothing wrong with teaching math. Please, don't get me wrong. But he's a high school math teacher. He's a high school math teacher. And all of a sudden, he becomes a billionaire? You go from teaching math to suddenly now a billionaire jet setter who's a player, a player in international finance? He was blackmailing people. He was blackmailing the rich and the famous. He was blackmailing the powerful and the wealthy. And remember this about Epstein, which has been covered up. He was a massive, not only did he vote Democrat, not only was he a big Democrat, he was a huge Democrat donor. Jeffrey Epstein was a partisan, rabid Democrat. He partied with Democrats. He raised money for Democrats. He did everything he could to help Democrats. So, of course, his circle, his inner friends, his fellow party animals, dare I say it, his fellow perverts and sexual predators, 99-1, were Democrats. 617-266-6868. And now it's all coming out. Except the media, to cover themselves up, to protect their friends, themselves, their own corrupt reputations, and their party, the Democrats, are refusing to tell you the truth. Suddenly now it's a non-scandal. Because they can't touch Trump, suddenly the scandal doesn't exist anymore. So it's toppling governments in Europe. It's bringing down royal houses. It's costing people cabinet positions, high-profile resignations. It is shaking the very foundations of the European political class. But here, they're yawning. They're yawning because the media are now protecting their own. This is a Democrat scandal, and that's why they're trying to bury it. Bill in Sudbury. Thanks for holding, Bill, and welcome.
Morning. Good morning, Jeff. Good morning. Good morning. I don't want to disagree with you. I don't want to fight with you. I want to bring it back to Maxwell herself a little bit, because it was unsatisfying that she pled the fifth a bunch of times yesterday. But we do have the minutes of the interview that she had with the Assistant Attorney General like 6 months ago when she had that meeting with Todd Blanche down at the prison. So if she's not going to, so that might be some kind of testimony of hers that could be used, or I don't think you have to subpoena it if it's already in the possession of the Attorney General. So anyways, the other thing I wanted to say is the Fifth Amendment is for stuff you're not convicted of. So every time she pleads the Fifth Amendment, she's kind of implying that there's a bunch of other crimes out there for which she has not yet been convicted of. Those were the two things I wanted to say. I didn't want to fight with you today.
Well, you're right on both counts, Bill. That's nice. It's nice that you're right once in a while. Your last point in particular, I think, is dead on. She's pleading the fifth. I mean, part of it, she was convicted on the trafficking of underage girls. But she wasn't just asked about that. You're completely right. She was asked about many other things. And you're completely right. She pled the fifth. And look, Bill, if I was to ask you, did you ever rape, molest, or sexually assault underage girls? I don't think it's a trick question. I think, you and most normal civilized human beings would say, no, absolutely not. You wouldn't say, I plead the fifth. Against self-incrimination. So that alone was very disturbing. And it's the way she said it, Bill. She was so cold, remorseless, no remorse, calculating, Machiavellian. Like I said, ice water in her veins. And she committed some of the most unspeakable crimes. So, look, I've said this before. I'm going to say it again. I just want you to hear it. If President Trump gives her clemency in exchange for testimony, he's lost my support. And I think he'll lose the country, and it'll be an act of absolute political suicide. I don't think he will do it. There's no inclination that I've been read anywhere that he wants to do it. But she's made that offer. She's putting it on the table. If he does it, I'm telling you, he's cutting his own political throat. He'd be a madman to do that. You don't make a deal with the devil. And she's as close to the devil as you can get. Bill, we've made history today. I agree with you. Bill, thank you for that call. Robin in Florida. Thanks for holding, Robin, and welcome.
Hi, thank you. The reason why I'm calling, all these years, I've been living in Palm Beach. And I know Police Chief Reuter, and he was trying to do the right thing. He was trying to come out with the truth with Epstein and what he was doing. He had everything, all the facts, everything. And he was fired. And also, and he was told that there would be consequences if he came out with the truth.
Robin, can you do me, please, a big favor? I would extend this because this is such an important call. I can't. I'm up against a hard break. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I want to go right back to Robin in Florida. Just super quick reset. The former police chief of Palm Beach, Chief Reiter is his last name, Reiter. It's a big story now. It's breaking. Apparently, a former law enforcement officer revealed to the FBI in 2019, so this was 13 years after the fact, that in 2006, Trump, in fact, was a whistleblower to Sheriff Reiter about Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. That there was rumors going around that Epstein was under investigation. Eventually, he'd be found guilty. In fact, he would confess. He would admit that he solicited sex. He pled guilty, soliciting sex with an underage prostitute. And it was Trump that made the initial first call to the sheriff saying, look, Epstein is dirty. Epstein's into young girls. Epstein's running a sex trafficking ring. And he's guilty of sin. Go get him. I'm telling you, go get him. And that Maxwell was, what do you want to call it, his middleman or middlewoman, his madam, his pimp, however you want to describe it, that she is utterly evil and she is directly implicated in his crimes. And so, this has now completely destroyed the media narrative that Trump somehow was colluding with Epstein or involved with Epstein or was enabling Epstein, when in fact that very opposite has now been proven to be true. Now, Robin is in Florida. She knows the former Sheriff Reiter. He was pushed out of office. In fact, he was fired. And she's explaining that Reiter really wanted to go hard on Epstein. He didn't want him to just serve a couple years in some kind of a halfway house. He wanted to throw the book at him. But there was tremendous pressure put upon him by the very people at the top from the federal government and the CIA. And Robin is going to lay all this out for us. Robin, please pick up where you left off. So you were saying that Reiter, however you pronounce his last name, that the sheriff was pushed out of his job. He was open about that Epstein was guilty. He wanted to throw the book at him, and he was put under tremendous pressure to go easy and soft on Epstein. Robin, please pick up where you left off.
Come forward and tell the truth of everything. He knew everything that was going on, and he was fired, which was crazy. He was fired, and his life was also threatened. I wish President Trump would get involved in this, because Police Chief Reiter, he knows everything. I mean, I even know some girls that were afraid to come forward, that were going to school in the Palm Beach area that was at Epstein's house. It's a very bad situation. I mean, that he was fired, that he wasn't allowed to tell the truth. I mean, and also when Jeffrey Epstein was in prison, why was he allowed to leave jail during the day whenever he wanted? That doesn't happen to any other prisoner. Why was he allowed to leave jail? Why was he given special treatment?
Oh, you're absolutely right. Robin, you couldn't be more right. Robin, what do you make of the fact that Sheriff Reiter at the time said that the CIA, the deep state, were putting tremendous pressure, saying, don't even arrest him, don't press charges, he's one of ours. The CIA basically admitted that Epstein was working for them and that they were using him to compromise some of the most powerful people in the world because they wanted to blackmail other people, use it as leverage. In other words, he was a federal asset, an intelligence asset. What do you make of that?
It's true, but now's the time. President Trump has to step forward. He has to bring Chief Ryder in because Chief Ryder has all the proof that's needed. I mean, whatever President Trump needs to do to protect him, he should do. He should get him bodyguards, whatever he needs, regarding the threats that he's receiving. But I'm telling you, this police chief knows everything.
I agree.
And also, the house in Palm Beach, they knocked the house down. I don't know why they did that, but there was a lot of things that went on in that house. It was Epstein's house. But I guess that's all I have to say. But thank you for listening.
Thank you, Robin. Excellent call. Really eye-opening call. I want to read to you something because I think no truer words were spoken. And this is from 781. You can text the Kuhner Man, 70470, 70470. Please, all of you, whatever you're doing, stop. You need to hear this. Trust me, you need to hear this. Jeff, as salacious and criminal as all of the sex crimes were, those grotesque sins were always the dessert. Money was the main course. Jeffrey Epstein was the architect of the Clinton Foundation and the Clinton Global Initiative, which provided the blueprint for selling U.S. policy, foreign and domestic, to the highest bidder and raking in billions of dollars. All of it laundered by Epstein. Now you know why Bill and Hillary Clinton flew to Epstein Island. Okay, double-barreled question. Number one, what do you make of Ghislaine Maxwell offering Trump, the Department of Justice, a deal? She will, in exchange for her full testimony on her role, Epstein's role, and the role of other very powerful people in this international pedophile ring that they were running, the sex trafficking ring, she will give everything she knows in exchange, not for immunity, for full clemency, i.e. get out of jail. Okay, a get out of jail free card. Should Trump take the deal? Yes or no? And moreover, will anybody ever go to jail? I'm just curious. Will anybody be held outside of Ghislaine Maxwell, obviously? Will any of the powerful men, the powerful perpetrators who have now been named in the Epstein files, will the victims ever get justice? Gino in Buffalo. Thanks for holding, Gino, and welcome.
My paisan, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you, my fellow paisan? Gino. Mike.
Oh.
What, Mike, why did you cut him off, Mike? You didn't cut him off. Okay, my fellow paisan, you're on the air. Let her rip, my friend.
Okay, you got me, Jeff?
I got you. Go ahead, buddy. Locked and loaded.
All right. On your first question, she does not get to set the terms, the conditions of her release. She's a criminal. So, they should do whatever, no clemency for her. She's a perverted criminal and should spend her days rotting in jail. They can get the information somewhere else. She don't need to be part of it. And the only other thing is, when will we get to win? I call myself a Christian, patriot, conservative. And, until we win, somebody goes to jail. We never seem to win. And also, this party, the Democrats, I'm going to call them the Teflon party because no matter what you throw at them, nothing ever sticks. And their symbol should be color red, and their animal should be the elephant. Because when their weakest goes down, they surround them like a herd of elephants, and nothing gets in, nothing hurts them. It's just amazing how everything can be turned back to the Republican Party and be their problem.
Well, Gino, I got to tell you, it's just incredible how they've tried to turn this into quote-unquote Trump scandal. When, as I don't want to repeat myself, but, who was the Democrat? Epstein. who partied with all these powerful Democrat donors? Epstein. Who was the one that was bankrolling the Clinton Foundation, the Clinton Global Initiative? It was Epstein. Who was the one behind the Clintons selling all of our secrets, to our enemies? It was Epstein. Who laundered the Clintons' money? It was Epstein. Who are all these people now in the Epstein files, with the exception, obviously, of Steve Bannon? And I talked about him at length. I don't hold back. I'm not going to cover up for anybody. But, yeah, as I said, it's 99-1. It's the most important, influential, powerful, prominent globalist Democrats on the planet. I mean, these are their top funders and donors. Some of the most wealthiest men. Really, it's the globalist elite. It's the who's who of Wall Street. In some ways, the who's who of Hollywood. And definitely the who's who of the financial elite of the Democratic Party. So, in a way, I'm really baffled by this, because if you wanted to take down the Democrats, and this has been Elon Musk's point the whole time, he said, look, this is it. Just follow the money. Follow the names, the breadcrumbs. And he said, that's why Elon's saying we should have prosecution after prosecution after prosecution, put them all behind bars. He says this will be the end of the Democratic Party as we know it. They're finished. Literally, they're finished. So I don't know, I guess what, they're trying to protect Bannon? I don't think Bannon is worth this. So whoever they're trying to protect, it's not worth it. Gino, I've got to ask you, I know you want prosecutions. I want prosecutions. You want people in jail. I want people in jail. But do you think we will get justice? Outside of Ghislaine Maxwell, will any of these powerful, wealthy Democrat donors in $2,000 suits, will a Bill Gates, will a Reid Hoffman, will a Bill Clinton, will any of them, Larry Summers, I don't care, take your pick, will any of them be put behind bars? What say you?
Jeff, I would have to say no. They couldn't even hold up a case against low-level people like Letitia James and Comer. I mean, these are low-hanging fruit that they should have started with to show people that they're serious. And for some reason, nobody, I couldn't tell you one person that's gone to jail or, even answered their indictment yet in court. So I really have little faith at this point until I see everything laid on the table. And I don't care if it takes down the Republican Party. The people are involved in this money laundering, this sex scandal, this horrible, horrible Luciferian party we got within our government. It needs to go down. And until somebody goes down, I'm going to have to say no. I don't see anything happening.
Gino, God bless you, my friend. And please keep calling. Dynamite call. The only slight disagreement I have with you, Gino, is I think the true animal for the Democrats is the serpent, the snake, because that's what they've become. And look, as my mentor, Michael Savage, famously said, they're not the Democrats, they're the demon rats. And the release of the Epstein files now, it's conclusive. It is a party of demons, by demons, for demons. Chris in Chelmsford. Thanks for holding, Chris, and welcome.
Wondering about getting after Nancy Pelosi or Barbara Boxer, if they're Democrats, for Jeffrey Epstein.
Well, I don't know, Chris. I don't know about Barbara Boxer. I know she was tied to the communist Chinese, her and Dianne Feinstein, which to me is treason. And Pelosi clearly was involved in financial corruption. There's no question. They're worth $500 million through her husband, Paul Pelosi, because they were involved in insider trading. And anybody that's honest about that will admit it. So I would get her. I just don't know if she was involved with Epstein. But no, and look, I mentioned this on X, and it's almost small potatoes now compared to the corruption we're talking about. We're talking trillions and trillions of dollars. Everybody knows about Ilhan Omar, Chris, how, in a year, she's now accumulated over $30 million in unexplained wealth. She claims a $5 million winery that doesn't exist. Literally doesn't exist. Well, I put this out on X last night. You can look it up, okay? Don't take my word for it. Ayanna Pressley, here, Massachusetts, Ayanna Pressley, like Ilhan Omar, a radical Democrat, member of the squad. She's now worth over $8 million. When she was first elected to Congress in 2018, forget zero. She had negative net worth. She was in the red. She owed people money. Okay, she was in the red. She's now worth, and again, unexplained wealth. She's now worth over 8 million and counting. How does this happen? She has a husband who apparently did a stint in prison for drug trafficking. So essentially, she married a drug dealer. Now, this guy is claiming that he makes $1 million a year. What? I'm sorry, what? Dealing drugs? What? Trafficking cocaine? So what I'm saying is, you have Ayanna Pressley. To me, I said, launch an investigation. She's just as crooked and dirty as Ilhan Omar. So they're coming into Congress. They have no money. And within a couple years, they're all either multimillionaires or they're, worth hundreds and hundreds of millions, or like the Pelosi's, $500 million. So we have the most corrupt Congress money can buy. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. Very, very quick. I want to read this text because I think it sums it up so well. The whole conversation, the last 3 hours and 50 minutes of the show, and really the Epstein files and the shocking revelations. And so just to preface this, I don't know if any of you have seen the movie Eyes Wide Shut. It's about maybe, 25 years old now, give or take, 26, 27, maybe 23, I don't know, late 90s, early 2000s. It stars Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman. I believe it's when they were still married, but don't quote me on that. Now, just so that you know, I'm not a big fan of the movie. I don't know why. I saw it. Grace wanted me to see it. We saw it together. I think it's a dark movie. At times, I think it's a slow movie. What I really didn't like about it is it's very gratuitous. So I want to warn you ahead of time. It's got nudity and quite a bit of nudity. Now, why am I mentioning this? Because it's a lot. What at the core of the movie, I'm not giving away the ending, but at the core of the movie is there's a rich, wealthy, powerful elite. And they're into these sort of masquerade parties and almost like satanic black masses where they're having orgies. So the most powerful people in the world, okay, men and women, will dress up and have masks on and whatever, and then they're extremely promiscuous. Okay, let's put it this way. And they're doing all kinds of depraved sexual acts. And basically what the movie is saying is that's the reality of our elite. Our political elite, our corporate or our economic elite, our business elite, our cultural elite, our media elite, our intellectual elite, that they are depraved and evil, basically satanic, morally bankrupt. Now, this, and I think this text really nails it. It's from 603. Jeff, truth be told, we're just touching the tip of the proverbial iceberg here today with this Epstein release. The deeper you dig into this, the worse and more unspeakable it gets. We have 3 million Epstein files that have been released so far, and there are 3 million more that are still waiting to be released. Additionally, we have all of the Podesta emails that we got through the WikiLeaks. Add to that, we know what was on Hunter Biden's laptop. And then there's all the evidence that remains to be released on the Anthony Weiner laptop. That, by the way, was combed over by 12 members of New York City law enforcement, and after being traumatized by what they saw on that laptop, remember Carlos Danger? And he kept exposing himself to underage girls, okay, and people who are underage. Anyway, let that go. All 12 of those law enforcement officers have died unexpectedly. Isn't that interesting? What's the common denominator here? Every bit of it mainly implicates the left. members of the Democrat Party, leftist global figures, and celebrities from Hollywood and the entertainment industry involving all the same subjects and all the same crimes. And this doesn't even factor in P. Diddy and how that ties into all of this. Now, here it comes. Jeff, the movie Eyes Wide Shut is not a fictional film. It's really a documentary masquerading as a fictional film. Brilliant. Brilliant. If you've ever seen it, I think you'll say, geez, you know what? That's Epstein. That's the Epstein files. That's Epstein Island. I mean, it's all there. And this was what, 25 some years ago? So anyway, if you want to see it, I just want to warn you, it's a dark film and it's a gratuitous film. Okay, there's a lot of nudity. But I think this 603 nails it. The Epstein Files is Eyes Wide Shut, but the real thing. Debbie in Milton. I hate to do this to you, Debbie. I've only got 1 minute before the show ends. Go.
Yeah, I believe that the Democrats thought that Trump was going to run as a Democrat, of course, because he hung around with the Democrats, and then he decided to run as a Republican. And I believe that's when they turned on him. And going forward, as far as the Epstein files, I think he's protecting a lot of the Democrats.
I mean, he's protecting some people. We don't know who. Bannon's name now has come out, so I think we're trying to protect him. But, who knows?